Hello, this is Jacob Sanders, and this is my EDT6050 final project, an action plan for improving the comprehension of grammatical clauses and phrases. So to begin, we're supposed to begin with identifying a problem of practice, and so we just concluded our Unit 1 uh, of grammar in our 8th grade English Language Arts Project Arrow classroom. And so I wanted to take a look at the post assessments because I have 3 years of data to take a look at that with. And at first glance, it's like, wait, what problem? There is no problem. 93% of my students over the last 3 years have met or exceeded expectations on the post test grammar assessment for Unit 1. So I knew I had to dive in deeper if I was going to find that problem I was looking for. And sure enough, in taking a look at the assessment and the concepts that are assessed in that assessment, the picture became much clearer. The tests on subjects and predicates, objects and complements, phrases, sentence structure, and clauses. And it's very clear that even though, again, 93% of students over the last 3 years have met or exceeded expectations on the test overall, uh, they have struggled with the phrases and clauses components of that assessment. Only 85% of students meeting or exceeding those expectations over the last 3 years. So that brings us to the research then on grammar practice. There is what I call traditional grammar practice that we've been using for the past 10 years. We use Glencoe's Writer's Choice Grammar and Composition textbook. You can see an example of the positives and appositive phrases on the right side. And we've used that since it was published in 2009 with direct instruction using the whiteboard or word processing to take students through identifying these parts of the sentence. And so that is the traditional sense, and it has been effective, I would say, overall, because 93% of the students are meeting or exceeding over the last 3 years. But we want to enhance their instruction so that they also improve with phrases and clauses as well. Another approach is the grammar rants approach, which is almost a complete 180 from traditional grammar instruction. In the grammar rants approach, students learn by observing bad examples of grammar that are wildly available, or widely, I should say, available in popular literature and popular media. And teachers take students through these bad examples of grammar to first have conversations about the impact of poor language on the user that uses it and the subliminal messages and meanings behind those that require proper grammar and language in conversation and in writing. And so there's this inquiry model that takes students through the bad grammar, ultimately then to arrive at the rules of good grammar or proper grammar. And so this backwards design is relatively new, and it is interesting because it is relatively engaging for students to use. Another one is the 100% online approach to learning grammar through the practice of quill.org. And I came upon this because our district just let us know that we have purchased the premium version of this online practice system. So this is something that will be at our disposal. And essentially, it allows kids to practice all of the concepts and receive adaptive feedback that will continue to push them and grow from whatever level they presently are at, as long as they're practicing the concept that has been laid before them. So it is something that students could do entirely on their own, both in school and at home, because our district is a one-to-one district with Chromebooks. The next would be a hybrid of direct instruction, which we're currently doing, and then adding in the practice component of using a program like Quill, both in school and out of school as well. And the research has said that even though the online programs are extremely effective at giving students feedback and learning the rules, that students feel more confidence about their abilities going forward after having had the opportunity to learn in a hybrid environment where they could ask their teachers questions. So in terms of looking at the pros and cons, the grammar rants approach, I said, would have a low to medium impact ultimately, because even though it would be high engagement, it would take a long time to arrive at the rules that are necessary for the students to know on assessments. In terms of feasibility, it'd also be low to medium because it would take a very long time to acquire all of the necessary popular lit media examples to then deconstruct and then have conversations and arrive at the rules thereafter. The online approach, only approach, the research has shown that it does have a medium to high impact on student learning because of the adaptive practice that they receive and the immediate feedback that the teachers have at their disposal. And the feasibility is extremely high because they give the students their username and password, they hop on and go practice each day. The hybrid and online instruction modeling, again, I believe would have a very high impact because you're not only getting all of the resources of the online approach, but you're then having that master instructor in front of the students available for answering questions and modeling and circulating and giving feedback, in addition to the easy implementation of the online component of adding that to what is already being done. And so that is what I've chosen. I chose the hybrid approach is to keep the direct instruction that's already been effective and use quill.org as an enhancement feature to give students more practice. So what you'd see in the classroom is relatively the same as what's been done in the past. Teachers modeling and teaching and providing their own formative assessments and giving students feedback, but then also circulating during online practice time to answer questions and make themselves available to students, or to conference with students one-on-one to let them know about their progress and ways in which they might practice and further improve. So that is the way that the classroom would change, and in that respect is that the teacher would actually become more available to assist the students. And that then ultimately brings us to the action plan. So we're going to enhance all of the grammar instruction with this hybrid approach, and hopefully that enhancement will then increase and improve student performance in those phrases and clauses areas where they've otherwise been lacking over the past 3 years. So we saw the problem of practice is that students did not seem to have enough time to get the amount of practice they needed to get the feedback from their teachers and have opportunities for reteaching for the final assessment. And hopefully the implementation of the online approach will add that extra factor in for the students as well. So in terms of the action plan going forward, teachers are fortunate that we just received data from Unit 1 grammar assessment, and we want to make sure we're prepared for next year's Unit 1 grammar assessment. And what better way to make sure that this works than by creating this hybrid instructional approach for grammar Unit 4 at the end of this current school year. Then that will give teachers the opportunity to essentially pilot this approach and use the feedback from this approach to determine if this is something that's going to be effective, or ultimately, if it is effective, what components can be added, subtracted, enhanced, so that the student learning can be increased that way that we want for next year for Unit 1. And so while the teachers will create Unit 4 in January and February and March, and then once they've created Unit 4, they'll implement Unit 4 in the fourth quarter, to get that live feedback while they are creating next year's Unit 1 hybrid approach. And so the idea is that when this is implemented next year, the students can continue to take the feedback from the online portion, from their in-class formative assessments, and support students ultimately to perform better on the final assessment. And that is the hope of the action plan. That is my action plan. This is Jacob Sanders for EDT6050. Thank you and good day.